He wanted to be a good player. So in order to be a good player, he had to work hard. And then when he came to Texas A&M, he elevated his work to another level.
He's a man of high character, and he just so happened to have one of the greatest football careers of any player at Texas A&M or any player in the history of the NFL.
Jacob Green is a Hall of Fame human being.
If you talk about a life well lived, Jacob Green has blazed a great trail up to this point.
Jacob has showed a true role model and being an example of what a student athlete should be.
This is part of his upbringing. This is Jacob.
Growing up in Cashmere Gardens was like all my friends lived, basically on that same block. And so you walk outside, you saw everybody, but it was a fun area, it was a safe place, and everybody knew everybody.
Jacob Green's story begins in Cashmere Gardens on the north side of Houston. Jacob was just like any kid growing up, wanting to hang out with his neighborhood friends with sports playing a big role.
I started playing football, I guess, when I was probably, I would think somewhere between 8 and 9, because we would play in the streets, because there wasn't any fields where we could go to when I grew up. We play touch on the concrete, tackle in the ditch. And so you can imagine.
His dad had a landscaping business, and one summer they had to, what you call that, jackhammer a parking lot. And that's where he got so strong, because he jackhammered that parking lot and he just reshaped his whole body that whole summer.
When I got back to, from over summer, Coach said, man, look like you got bigger.
That summer meant many things for Jacob. Not only did he build physical strength, but it set up a foundation of work ethic that would propel him forward both on and off the football field.
Jacob Green, one of the finest young men I've met in my 84 years.
Well, one of the things, not only did he have great physical ability, but he was a great person. He came from a really good family. He had a really sweet mom and dad. His dad was a hardworking guy, had his own business. And so Jacob came up with good parental guidance and influence, and he was a really solid person.
His dad taught him how to be a hard worker. I think his dad had a good work ethic. He told him to keep working forever, whatever you wanted in life. And I think just by being such a good example, showing Jacob what happens when you work hard, the benefits of being successful comes along with that.
During Jacob's junior year of high school, he was introduced to a sophomore named Janet.
We didn't talk about football at all. I didn't even know he played football.
I didn't tell I was a football player, and because, I just didn't. I
really liked that he didn't tell me, so I thought that was pretty good. So he and I continued to talk, and then it went from there.
By the time his senior year rolled around, Jacob was making a name for himself on the football field. People were taking notice.
Jacob was the caliber player. He could have gone anywhere. He was recruited by, everybody recruited back then recruited him.
When I got recruited by Texas A&M, that was something new for a school like coming from Cashmere. So when we started getting schools like Division I schools coming here to recruit us, then they started watching football too, and they started recruiting Jacob. But Jacob had the opportunity to go to several different big schools.
U of H, Texas, UCLA, just Notre Dame. Everybody was recruited. And I started to take these trips. And I went to Oklahoma State, went to U of H, and went down to Texas, and I went to A&M. But after about 4 trips, I knew I didn't want to take any more trips. I knew I was coming to A&M, so I told the coaches that, hey, I'm going to Texas A&M.
Jacob Green became a fighting Texas Aggie. However, the transition to college wasn't so easy.
First year at A&M, we had 13 blue chippers coming in, and the blue chipper was the 5-star guys, and so I was one of those guys.
When Jacob came into Texas A&M, he was playing, but he wasn't starting. So I think reality hit that he's on a team now that guys are just as good, okay? And he's not the big man on campus.
I was getting a little frustrated, and I called home and I told my dad, I said, hey, I'm transferring to Oklahoma State, because my roommate, Ed Smith, he left. And I said, because I want to go play. And my dad said, no. He said, you committed, you're going to stay there and take care of your business. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I had a father strong enough to keep me focused.
From there, Jacob put his nose to the ground and grinded his way to the top of the depth chart, and eventually up the national ranks.
Jacob was one of those guys that you love to have on your defense. If you got a guy that the other people can't block, you're probably going to have a pretty good defense. And Jacob was one of those guys. Plus, he was a vocal leader on our defense, and one that by his example and just his persona, he helped us be better on defense.
And the Aggies' mean Jacob Green made life miserable for enemy runners, winning All-America acclaim.
Jacob Green, a consensus All-Southwest Conference performer, along with players like Ed Pujovsky and Gerald Carter, who also received All-Southwest Conference recognition.
During his college career, which left him with 283 tackles, 38 sacks, and an A&M school record 12 forced fumbles, Jacob had a number of outstanding games that will live on in Aggie football history.
The Aggies handed the Lions their most lopsided home defeat in 9 years.
After helping the Aggies notch a marquee road victory over 6th-ranked Penn State, Jacob again found his way into the record books with a 22-tackle performance against Baylor. One of Jacob's most memorable games came during his final contest for the Aggies. He made 10 tackles as A&M upset number 6 Texas at Kyle Field.
It's a great feeling, you know, and I feel like that, you know, it solved a lot of miseries that we had during the year, and you know, we were 5-5 coming in this ball game, and you know, to end up on a winning note, it makes anyone feel good.
Despite his time in Aggieland drawing to a close, the next chapter in his football career was just beginning. Jacob would be selected by the Seattle Seahawks, 9th overall in the 1980 NFL Draft.
And I thought when he said Washington, I'm thinking, wow, maybe Washington, D.C. So I get there, and I'm just kind of, I'm on the plane. I get there, and guy picked me up. I'm still just kind of, and I looked, and I saw these mountains, and I saw this sign that says Seattle, and I'm like, oh, state of Washington, huh? So I get downtown, Seattle, and that's where it all started, you know. I'd never been there.
So I'm a year behind Jacob. So he went to Seattle a year before I graduated from college. And my mom decided, at one time we talked about me going to Seattle when he first got drafted, but my mom was like, oh no, you're gonna graduate from college, sweetheart. So the year after, he was on his way to Seattle with a friend driving, and his rookie year, and he told me on the phone, he said, you're coming with me next time I come back to Seattle, so we're gonna get married. So we got engaged and we got married in May.
After a decade in Seattle that included great football memories and the birth of 3 daughters, the Greens moved back to Houston, where he helped his mother run the family landscaping business. Before long, helping others became a calling.
I started working for my sister, helping her. Janet and I actually bought a home for teenage girls. What I did was I would do fundraising for them. I would do a golf tournament and give the money to the home for the girls, buy beds and whatever they needed.
Howdy, Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. This has been one of the best years we ever had.
Jacob's philanthropic work actually began during his time in Seattle. He started hosting an annual golf tournament to raise money for the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center.
I've been involved for many years with him, going to his charity in Houston, and I've been to the Hutch charity up in Seattle. And these are big-time events that have raised a bunch of money for charity. The one in Seattle is focused on childhood leukemia and childhood cancer, and he's done some great work up there.
During his time in Houston, Jacob stayed connected with Texas A&M, which opened a door to a potential return to Aggie land.
Jacob was hired by a guy named Stu Starner, who was an incredible asset to the 12th Man Foundation. And I can tell you right now, Jacob had to be coached. But Jacob's always had to be coached, and he's always been coachable. And the difference in someone who has to be coached and is successful is that Jacob had the ability and the gifts that were a natural fit, just like he did in football. In football, he had speed, he had power, he had size. As a fundraiser, he had a genuine interest in people.
He just doesn't have to work very hard at his job. He is so much in love with what we do at Texas A&M that when he's speaking to a donor, when he's speaking to any constituent of the 12th Man Foundation, it is clear that we've got a mission that's supported by Jacob Green.
The story that doesn't get told enough about the 12th Man Foundation and what they do is the impact they have on lives. And I think Jacob Green is a perfect example of money that was spent years ago to provide a scholarship. And now that young man has came to A&M, had a great career, brought a whole lot of recognition to Texas A&M, and at the same time was being developed by our faculty here and our coaches here. And he's been a great representative, and it's a great story.
During his second act on campus with the 12th Man Foundation, Jacob continues to make an impact for Texas A&M and has raised funds for nearly every Aggie athletics facility project in recent memory, including the historic redevelopment of Kyle Field.
Greatest thing that has ever happened to me is coming to Texas A&M and coming back and working with our student athletes and being a part of what you guys have believed in.
Texas A&M means everything to Jacob Green. It's come full circle in our life, especially with all of our kids going to A&M. My son-in-law went to A&M.
It means so much because not just the opportunity that it gave him to do the things that he's been doing in life, but the friendships that he's developed, you know, tying in from what his parents instilled in him to the expectations of being at A&M and being an athlete.
Growing up, who would have thought that it could happen the way it happened and you be so in love with your university, or you take pride in it and you stick up for it, and no one can ever talk bad about Texas A&M to me without getting in a fight. Or either, I mean, it's not gonna happen.
For the Hall of Fame to have a man of Jacob Green's integrity, to have the Hall of Fame to have a man of Jacob Green's humility, does nothing but raise the quality and class of the National Collegiate Football Hall of Fame.
Being able to represent Texas A&M as he does with the 12th Man Foundation, and then to represent them in the College Football Hall of Fame, I think is just a super honor for him, one that he'll cherish and be proud of the rest of his life.
I mean, he is such a tremendous representative of our university and everything that we stand for, and so it just gives me great pride, and should give all Aggies great pride that he's being honored in this way. That it's an honor for every Aggie, and it's great to see someone of Jacob's character that's receiving his honor.
It's a celebration that we're gonna all enjoy, and I'm just thankful to God, and thankful to my family and friends that this day is coming.
From Cashmere Gardens to the College Football Hall of Fame, Jacob Green.